It's that sound, isn't it? A drip that just won't stop. Or maybe it's a smell, that damp, earthy smell, where it just doesn't belong. You follow the signs, and then you see it. Water, spreading across your floor. It's a moment of pure, gut-wrenching panic. But knowing what happens next can turn that panic into a plan. So there it is. The water is rising, and you can feel the clock ticking. What you do in these first few minutes and the next few hours can literally mean the difference between saving your home and having to tear it apart. So what is the playbook when disaster strikes? And look, this can happen in a ton of ways. It's not always the dramatic hurricane flooding you see on the news. Nope. It could be something as simple as a washing machine hose failing, a hidden pipe leaking under your house, or a sewer line backing up. The cause might be different, but the enemy is always the same: water where it shouldn't be. This right here, this is the single most important idea to get. Time is your biggest enemy. Seriously. The difference between a controlled, professional drying job and a catastrophic demolition often comes down to just a few hours. Okay, so you've made that crucial call for help. What's supposed to happen right away? Well, it all kicks off with the emergency response. Think of this as stopping the bleeding. Any reputable professional company operates on a rapid response model. The gold standard is to have certified technicians on your property within an hour. And when I say certified, I mean by the IICRC. That's the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification. They're like the governing body for this whole industry. This 60-minute window isn't just about good service. It's a strategic move to minimize the damage before it gets irreversible. You know, you hear these two terms, mitigation and restoration, thrown around a lot, and people use them interchangeably, but they are totally different things. Mitigation is the emergency first aid. It's getting the water out and setting up the drying equipment to stop things from getting worse. Restoration, that's the rebuilding phase. That's replacing drywall and floors after everything is completely 100% dry. So once the standing water is gone, you might think the worst is over. But that's when the real science begins. This isn't just about sticking a few fans in a room and crossing your fingers. It is a highly calculated technical process. And this entire process is governed by a very strict set of rules called the IICRC S500 standard. Now, why should you care about some technical manual? Well, because your insurance company absolutely does. Following these standards is how you know the job is done right. And just as important, it's what ensures your insurance claim gets approved without a fight. A huge part of that standard is figuring out what kind of water we're dealing with. Is it clean water from a broken supply line? That's Category 1. Or is it the nasty stuff, black water from a sewage backup or a flood? That's Category 3. And that distinction changes everything. With black water, porous stuff like your drywall, carpet, and insulation, it just can't be saved. For safety's sake, it has to go. So how do they actually get your walls and floors dry? They use the science of psychrometrics. It sounds complicated, but the idea is pretty cool. They are basically manipulating the environment inside your house, perfectly balancing the temperature, humidity, and airflow to convince the wet materials to release their moisture into the air. Then, giant dehumidifiers grab that moisture and get it out. They literally build a scientific drying chamber right inside your home. And this just shows you, drying is not an overnight thing, not even close. It usually takes a solid 3 to 5 days of continuous monitored work. Technicians will come back every single day with moisture meters and thermal cameras to track the progress, maybe tweak the equipment, and document everything until every last piece of wood and drywall hits its official dry standard. So why all the urgency? Why all this high-tech science? Well, beyond the initial damage from the water itself, there is a second threat lurking in the shadows. And frankly, it's even worse: mold. The second things get wet, a clock starts ticking. In the right conditions, warm and humid, those dormant mold spores that are just floating around in the air all the time get the signal they've been waiting for. It's time to wake up and get to work. And by the 48-hour mark, that wake-up call can turn into visible growth. It starts to colonize the very materials your house is built with. And that's exactly why rapid, scientific drying isn't just a recommendation, it's the only real way to stop a water problem from turning into a massive mold nightmare. But what about a slow, hidden leak? You have to become a detective in your own home. Trust your senses. That musty smell that won't go away, paint that's peeling for no reason, baseboards that look a little puffy. Those are all distress signals that moisture is hiding where you can't see it. Okay, the water is gone, the structure is scientifically dry.
The threat of mold has been stopped in its tracks. Now and only now can the final phase begin, actually putting your home back together. So let's just recap the whole journey, right? It's really 3 big steps. Step 1 is emergency mitigation, stopping the bleeding. Step 2 is that scientific, monitored drying process. And only when that's totally done and verified does Step 3 begin, the complete reconstruction to get your home back to the way it was before.
And listen, if there's one giant mistake you can avoid, it's this one: pushing to rebuild too fast before every single wall cavity and subfloor has been proven to be dry is a recipe for disaster. You're just sealing moisture in, which basically guarantees that mold and rot are going to show up a few months down the road.
All right, we have covered a ton of ground, from that first frantic moment to the science of drying. So let's boil all of this down into your personal playbook. What do you really need to know? If you walk away with one thing today, let it be this slide. First, if it's safe to do so, stop the water. Second, call a certified 24/7 professional right away. Don't wait. Third, start taking pictures and videos of everything for your insurance claim. Move valuables if you can, and please, please do not try to use your shop vac or home vacuum on standing water. It creates a serious electrical shock hazard, and it's just not powerful enough to do the job right.
Which really leaves us with one final thought. We all prepare for fires, right? We have smoke detectors, we have fire extinguishers, but statistically, water damage is a far more common threat. Knowing who you would call in an emergency and where your home's main water shutoff is, that's not just a good idea. It's the first and most important step in being prepared.